Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. You know, guys, we're getting closer and closer to the release of that wonderful Everyday Rocks box set from BMG. Very excited about this, guys. 7 t-shirts, 7 picture discs, a wall calendar, lyrical phrases. You can schedule Uriah Heep listening. You can schedule podcast listening. And it's really an amazing package. The artwork looks gorgeous, and I certainly cannot wait to get my copy of it. You can order it through the show notes. There's a link there. You can also go to the official Uriah Heep website and order it there as well. And you know what, guys? I would not wait until September 24th when it comes out. I would reserve my copy earlier. That way you'll get it earlier, but also make sure that you get a copy at all. Again, I don't know how many they're pressing. I imagine they're going to go reasonably quick. So make sure that if you're interested in getting one, you secure your copy ASAP as possible, as Michael Scott would say. Got a great show for you guys today. We're breaking ground on another sort of controversial situation. Did I really say controversial? Controversial. It's, I can't even say it. Situation. And we're digging into a song that has 2 versions, which is great because we really haven't had a lot of those in a while. And I really enjoy doing those kind of shows. But also this second version is from the Ridge Farm sessions, or as it's noted, the supposed Ridge Farm sessions. So as I understand it, when the Abominog lineup was put together, they needed to do some demos, write some songs, get some stuff on tape to start shopping to record companies to get a record deal, to go in the studio and do a proper album and get a tour going. And take this with a grain of salt, because this is just my understanding. I don't know how factual all of this is, but which is, why I preface it. But they needed something, so they went into the studio and recorded these versions of these songs. Some of them were obviously re-recorded later and put on albums, but I do not have the Ridge Farm sessions per se. But what I do have, our version today, and our song, by the way, I haven't said it, is Playing for Time. And this original version is from the Head First album, of course. But the additional bonus version I have is from it's a CD that I found called Still Eavy, Still Proud. And it's got some rarities, some live stuff, some bonus stuff that I'll be getting to as we go along. But that's where this particular version came from, because I cannot locate a decent copy of the Ridge Farm sessions. So, like I said, I'll give you everything I can find. If I can't find it, I can't give it to you. It's kind of how nature works. So before we get into things, though, you know what? It is Monday, and it's always good to hit some gratitude on Monday. Very important way to start your week. And I hope that you guys all had a great weekend, by the way. I don't know what you did. I don't know who most of you are, but I hope you had a great weekend just the same. First of all, I want to thank you guys who are listening right now. It's amazing how many people enjoy the show. I love that. I absolutely love sharing the music of this wonderful band, and having their support just means a ton to me, as I often say. But you guys are the ones that are listening. And, when I see the numbers of how many people are enjoying the show, that really means a lot to me. So thank you guys. Thank you especially to those who have shared, who have taken a minute to say, hey, I enjoy the show so much, I want to leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. That really means a lot to me. If you've left a comment there or on Podbean, there's a good chance I've seen it. If you're leaving them anywhere else, I probably don't know that you've done it. So if you have, please shoot me a note. Let me know. Send me a link maybe to your comments or reviews. That would help me greatly, because, the show goes out over a lot of different networks, and I don't know that I even know all the networks it goes over. So if there's little reviews or ratings being left there, I probably don't know about it at all. I haven't seen any, for example, on Google Podcasts, but it could be that I just don't know that they're there. So anyway, thank you guys that have been doing all that. I also want to thank all my friends here in our Deep Dive Podcast Network. In fact, You can even search on Twitter for the hashtag Deep Dive Podcast Network, and you're going to get all of us. Starting with Nate and John over at the Deep Purple Podcast, the Simple Man at Skinner Reconsidered, Terry T-Bone Mathley at T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the other side. We have Rye at Sabbath Bloody Podcast, Paul, Joe, and David at In the Lap of the Pods. We have Andy and Matt at Hawk Binge, and Eric and Jonathan at Maiden A to Z. And of course, we cannot forget my good friend Brandon over at Metallicast. Now, there are other cool things that you may want to check out. Ace on Music on Stitcher and YouTube is a great show. Lots of interesting insider things about the industry and some of the bands that they manage. Also, gottahearemall.com. Allegra has whipped up a wonderful history of the bands Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Deep Purple, their live tours, all of that good stuff, tidbits, pictures, everything you could imagine. Lots of cool little articles on different things. Well worth checking out if you are a fan of those things. And, you know, I got to talk about the people who helped make the show what it is. My friend Scott Lazinski, who did the most amazing logo for the show. Absolutely love it. My friends over at Audionamics, I will not do a podcast without your product Instant Dialogue Cleaner, or IDC. Go to audionamics.com and check that out, especially if you're a podcaster or do any voiceover work. It's a pretty amazing tool. They have some other cool stuff that they do that might be of interest as well. And then, of course, my buddy Dave White, Uriah Heep's director of social media, who shares the show on Twitter and Facebook with you guys and does an amazing job keeping that humongous Uriah Heep website up to date with all of the cool things, like that new box set. Last but not least, of course, my dear patrons, thank you all so much. You guys, every dollar means so much to me. It really does. Starting with the $5 tier, Easy Living is what I call it. We have Kenny Wymore and Brad D. At the $3 The Wizard tier, we've got Peter Voss, Goran Eriksson, Frank Thielgaard Mortensen, and William Rose. And then at the $1 Traveler in Time tier, the Unscented Airtight Grave Site. Thank you all very much. Means so much to me. It really does. Now, I talked a little bit about the Ridge Farm Sessions. I actually don't know that much about them except that it exists. I have a track list that may or may not be accurate, so I'm hunting down anything that I don't have currently. I've got some of it, but still looking for the rest. And I believe it's the same lineup that we are working with now. It must be, because it was recorded for the Abominog lineup, which we're still basically on. So everything should be good there. And let's get into the headfirst version of Playing for Time by Uriah Heep. Right out of the gate, it just goes for it, you know. Nice little quick keyboard intro, but then just right into the powerful music. Don't know if you guys noticed, but at the very beginning, when the drums kicked in, we had a couple of crashes on the regular snare hits, not the accented ones, but the regular ones. So that's very, very reminiscent of Lee's playing, and it's nice to hear that again. Also, just the guitar sound is stunning. I mean, obviously, they're very guitar fronted now at this point, and I just love the sound. I love the power. Mick just draws me right in with his playing there, and everybody else is doing a great job backing him up. The bass is really active. Keyboards sound nice and strong. Everybody's just there, present in the moment. What we're hearing here is just fantastic, straightforward rock and roll, high energy from the vocals, from the drums, from everybody just really being interested in playing the song, being present, being together, and driving it forward. It really is fantastic. I want to say that Peter Goalby double-tracked this, but I'm not positive. It could be a slight delay or an echo effect. I know I'm hearing some reverb on it, but it sounds like there's 2 vocal tracks there. If he did sing it twice, it's pretty precise to what he sang both times, keeping them very solid together. I'm not hearing any real distance in the words, but it just sounds thicker, like there's an extra track there. Either way, sounds really good. High energy, loving it. I'll be honest, I could use a little more kick drum, pushing my chest back a little bit with the beat, I think would be really nice. Overall, it sounds pretty good. Vocals are a little bit buried, but his energy is really coming through. Wow, I like that part. Very tight, very well played, very energetic. It's amazing how you can find energy in stops. When they go bump, bam, bam. It seems like that would break things up. Like it would take that freight train and just kind of derail it a little bit, but it actually doesn't. It really just keeps the pace going. First of all, you're still on the same beat, and subconsciously we fill those in, don't we? We're still, hearing the meter that we're hearing. We're hearing the bass drum in our mind, not consciously, but we're just feeling that pulse. So it seems like everything's really on time and still moving forward. But it's amazing to me how stopping doesn't actually make the song feel like it's stopping. I don't know if you guys can hear them or not. Some of the lower toms, they're really dry in the mix, so you can't really make them out as pronounced as they normally would be, as we've heard on some of the other albums. But Lee Kerslake is playing his heart out in this section. Really great fills, just all power stuff, really great stuff. And how about that killer Hammond solo? That was it was short, and I was really wanting more. But I really like what John Sinclair was playing there. It felt like it was about to go into this really, more in-depth, amazing solo. Maybe he'll touch on it again in a little bit, but I really liked where that was going. Another just blistering solo from Mick. And these songs, especially I would think as a guitarist, the upper tempo songs are a little more fun to play because you kind of can just go wild with it as he does here. As always, stays within the context of the song, for me at least. But I also love that subtle organ that's backing him up in the middle section of that solo. It's really subtle. It's almost blended within the guitar sound, but there's some really nice playing going on there. And I love the sound of the keyboard and guitars together. It's really, really working for me. I love that. I don't know what you would call it. I'm pretty sure it's coming from Bob Daisley on bass, but there's this almost like warbly sound that I'm hearing. I don't think it's the keyboard. I think it's coming from the bass guitar, but it's really cool, really unexpected, something that you really don't hear in a song normally. So that's a nice little treasure inside of this piece. I'm hearing kind of an unpleasant sound in the background, something that doesn't quite work. And I'm not sure if it's a synthesizer or something that got on the tape. I don't know. But there's something that was added when they kicked in with this part here. And it just doesn't sound quite right to me. But fortunately, it's pretty minimal in the background, and it doesn't really take away from the song too much for me. Well, I forgot to mention it earlier at the beginning of the song, right before the vocals came in. There was that really nice point where the music dropped out and there was just that synthesizer. This is a throwback to that part. Kind of an abrupt but cool ending. It fades a little bit fast, but that's okay. I think we can live with that. Fortunately, right after I stopped to talk about that odd sound I heard in the background, it went away. So that was thankfully short-lived. Still not sure what that was, but was replaced by some great solo work from Mick on top of the just the energy coming from the band, and the song is phenomenal for me. It's kind of a weird vocal, though, in this last section, because you've got the point where the vocals are singing and they normally do. Then there's just this other burst that kind of comes out of nowhere and then dissipates again. It's interesting, though. It's certainly something that is within the skill level of this band to throw in little dynamics like that. In this case, I'm not sure how I feel about it, because it was just kind of a unexpected thing, and it threw me off at first a little bit. I'm sure it's something I could get used to within a couple listens, maybe even by the time that we get through the second version of the song. But overall, great song, high energy, really dig it. And I'm curious to see if, how the mix is in the other version, because obviously completely different recording, different time altogether. And who knows, maybe we'll be able to hear some of those drum fills that are a little bit light in this version. I hope so, because Lee is just playing his heart out, and I want to be able to hear what he's doing. It's a really good song, though. I really dig it, and I'm glad that they didn't ditch it after all, because it took them a couple albums to get it recorded, right? The so-called sessions were, prior to Abominog. So here we are a couple of albums later, and this was recorded in those sessions. So I'm really glad that they went back to it and re-recorded it for this album head first. So let's take a listen to the other version and see how it sounds. Okay, so we have more snare, less bass drum, but we can hear the bass better, the bass guitar, And the lead guitars are a little bit lower in the mix and more in the right ear than they were before. So this is interesting so far. The writing and performance is pretty much the same as the first one so far. Obviously, we have that count in with the drums on the hi-hat. But apart from there, yeah, it's pretty on par. I like the fact that we can hear the vocals much more clearly in this version. We're also able to hear the bass guitar so much better underneath the vocal. I like that that those are cutting through a little bit more in this version. Okay, I have never begged for a bass drum to be in the mix more than I am right now. I mean, I feel like Veruca Salt asking Daddy for a golden goose. The cymbals sound great, but without the bass drum pushing them, it's just not. It doesn't have any power there. You know, it's fast. It's got a good tempo to it. I feel all the other instruments, but without the bass drum driving those cymbals. And it's really missing that edge that I think that part needs. However, love what Mick is playing. There's something that tells me this isn't really a finished version of the song. Maybe they were still working on some lyrics or experimenting. Maybe later on they said, you know what, that section didn't really work. We need some lyrics over that. Not really sure. I dig the playing, but it does feel a little bit different. Now, had I heard this version first and not the actual album version, I probably wouldn't have noticed anything. You know, I mean, I'm as far as the lyric change in this section goes, but being that I heard the other version first, now I'm definitely seeing a little bit of a difference between the two versions. So obviously, you know, this was a version that was written a couple years prior, so it would have some differences, you know, when you pick up a song and, you know, let's try this instead, or maybe we should do this instead. I mean, you're going to edit it. You're going to rewrite little bits of it. You're not just going to pick it up and go, well, we finished that song. We just didn't use it. Just the natural way of a creative would be to modify something, whether there was even intention to or not. Even if they said, you know what, we had that pretty good, let's just record that. Then during the process of rehearsing or whatever it's going to be, somebody in that band is going to go, you know what? And something's going to change. I mean, you can't take 5 creative people like that and not have something be modified somewhere. So if you picked up on those drums, those are the kind of drum fills I was hearing in the other song. They were just very light in the mix, not a lot of definition or tone to the drums themselves. So they were really kind of lost in the translation, I thought. But here you're getting to hear, you know, what he was doing. Only did 2 on this one, but it's just really energetic, powerful stuff. I love those kind of drum fills, especially for like a high energy rocker. You know, you can really hear in this version too just how hard Bob Daisley's working. And also, let's not forget John Sinclair. He is kicking some ass on that Hammond. Sounds really good. It's nice to hear the Hammond back in the fold of the band again. It's a great instrument. It's one that I particularly enjoy. I grew up on it. I grew up listening to bands like Uriah Heep and Deep Purple who really knew how to make a Hammond organ sing. But it's been a while. We haven't really heard that. We've heard a lot more in the way of synthesizers, organs, electric pianos, but not a lot of Hammond. So I was really happy to hear that come back. So you can see that all the groundwork for the final version in this section of the song was really laid right here from the time they first put it to tape. And I like the fact that I didn't think I was going to hear it because there was so much organ in the background, but the synth that I heard that was really working in harmony with the guitar did make its appearance. And so I was surprised to hear that. I thought maybe that was something that was updated for the head first version. But in any case, yeah, really cool solo again. Really feel the energy of the song in it. Sometimes guitar players, they get a little crazy and they lose me. They take me out of the song. And as I've said many times on the show, that is one of my favorite things about listening to Mick Box play is that he keeps me in the song, even when he's playing, something that might be considered a little more wild as a solo, something maybe a little more, I guess, flashy. But even when he does that, he still stays within the context of the song and he doesn't lose me. I don't sort of float out of it or focus on, the guitar so much that I'm not feeling the song anymore. It's always just a nice blend. And I really love that about his playing. I always have. So here's what I have a problem with. And you guys know how much I love this band, how much I love the writing and the performances. But speaking as an audio engineer, I've been doing it 30 years now. And I have to say, these power fills sound pretty good. They could be a little bit better as far as the mix goes, the sound quality of what we're hearing, and that would help. But without that bass drum, really backing up those cymbals, it's like power, power, We're really losing that there because that kick drum isn't really coming through. It probably works for a lot of people, and I might just be picky because of that experience that I have. But honestly, that's what I'm feeling in it. And I see so much potential in this song, and neither version really brought that home for me as far as the bass drum goes. Especially the faster the rock song, the more you want that bass drum pumping and just pushing you in the chest. And when you have a really cool part like that, I mean, Lee he's just nailing it on the drums, but you're not getting the full effect of that. And then that weakens that part a little bit. It seems diminished when that really should be one of the most aggressive parts of the song. But the performances on this are just fantastic. I mean, Bob Daisley, he's playing his heart out. John Sinclair is doing an amazing job there on the organ, little fill-in on the synths here and there. Mick is killing it with the solos and just the rhythm. I mean, going to be from the band that they were previously going to be a more guitar-oriented band, that does change a lot of the responsibility, puts a lot more pressure on the guitar player, but Mick is nailing it in spades, I have to say. Peter is just singing at the top of his game here. I don't feel that same double track that I did on the other version, so maybe there is something to that for the head first version of it. Here I feel it's sung a little more straightforward, but either way, he sounds great. I love his mix on this. I think it really allows his voice to cut through a little bit better than the other version. I really love that synthesizer that they added in the background. I didn't notice that in the other version. It might not have been there, or it might just not be something I detected, but I really like it. I think it adds just another layer of interest to the song. And that is one thing that really is classic Uriah Heep, right? Finding another layer, another thing to add, another change to make, just doing stuff that's not, okay, now we're going to repeat the chorus 4 times and then we'll start fading it out for the length of 3 choruses and then we're done. It's not that. It's, hey, let me throw this in there. Let's see how it sounds. And it just works all the time. Yeah, I have to say I like that ending better. I like the longer fade on that. I like just those couple of gentle notes, though. So you've got that repeating pulse, right? And that's pretty cool. But then you've got just a couple of gentle notes on what sounds like a brass synth pad. Could be wrong. I don't know exactly what he's using, but something similar to that. And I just love that. It just adds a little element of finality, but also a little element of mystery, too, right at the end. And I think that's pretty cool. I like the longer fade. I think that works much better. But man, killer work from Mick on that ending part 2. Great solo work on this song on both versions, and a really powerful track. I think it had a lot more potential to it, but that doesn't go by way of the band. And again, that's just the way that I feel about it. But I think it's a great track overall. I think it's really powerful. Love the backing vocals. I didn't really talk about that much because they're kind of subtle, but I think they sound good. I think they're very well placed. That one spot is still a little bit weird for me, but it doesn't distract me from the song. It's just something that I kind of take note of. But overall, I think it's a fantastic song. I see a lot of potential in it. It's got great energy. It's a really good rock and roller. I think it could have potentially been released as a single on its own. I mean, with whatever is a B-side, but I certainly think it could have potentially been released as an A-side single, or at least an EP or something. I don't know, but it's a great song. I really like it, and I hope that you guys did too. I hope you enjoyed our dual version. Been a while since we've been able to do one of those, so I'm glad we were able to do one here, and I hope that you guys have a fantastic day. We'll see you on the next show, guys. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magicians Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!